have control over your life. And even if there is something that you don't know that you have control over, you have the ability to talk to the person that can help you. If that is your doctor, your therapist, your pastor, or, minister of some sort, but that you can reach out to people, but you got to make that step.
Nice, nice. Now, the hard thing that I think I've realized in my life as I grew older was just that I don't always want to take responsibility for the
Mm-hmm.
bad things going on in my life.
Yeah.
And so I don't even reach out for that assistance because that kind of means that I'm taking accountability and responsibility. And that was on me.
Mm-hmm.
Has that ever happened? You know anybody that's happened to? Have
Oh
you ever
yeah.
felt that?
Myself, it's funny because I, just spoke about being able to speak to, your pastor or whatever, minister, depending on the religion you may or may not be. Kind of a joke in the church is that, don't turn and look to ask if, like that applies to your neighbor. You know what I'm saying? Like ask if it
Mm-hmm.
applies to yourself. So a lot of times we're sitting there, we're thinking all the people that this applies to, but never saying like, this applies to my situation. And so, oh yeah,
Oh yeah.
there are definitely times when I haven't wanted to take responsibility for something, and I've had to, and I've also seen the downside of it, right? Or I shouldn't say the downside, but the result of it that I'm never getting out of it. If it was a bad financial decision, if it was a bad professional
Mm-hmm.
decision, whatever it is. So to keep from, remaining in that cycle, I had to take accountability.
Yeah. And so I think there's one huge piece that is a part of that self accountability part that a lot of people just don't have ultimately. And so for me, kind of as I was getting older, I didn't have like discipline at
Mm-hmm.
all. And I think that is what ultimately bred me being like allowed to be victimized, especially like not want to take account. It's like so there was a point in time where I actually like broke my leg kind of in a, I didn't fully break it. Like I just like cracked my shin, but like I did bad things to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that way, ultimately what's the word? What's the word? So that way I could feel like it was actually worth going to the doctor.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Because it was like, it wasn't as bad, but it's crazy that like I didn't want to take accountability and responsibility for it. Why? Because beforehand I wasn't eating healthily. I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing, like going to the gym and like actually like doing like actual like exercise in the right way, flexibility training. I wasn't drinking milk and like calcium. I wasn't taking my vitamins, all that stuff. And so whenever my leg got jacked up, for me, I was like, what? Stupid leg, like I was like, I don't need to go to the doctor, but then I needed to actually get it fixed and
Yeah.
like and take care of it. And so I actually started going to the gym more often
Yeah.
in the wrong
Yeah.
way and doing the wrong things to make my leg worse.
Yeah.
And the I think the thing that when I look back at that is that I didn't have the discipline beforehand before something happened, which ultimately made me not want to be accountable whenever I did have an issue happen. And then on the opposite end, I felt like, what is the world like going? Why am I having these issues with my leg and like with my leg being broken? And then kind of doing a little bit more to it just because, but I victimized myself with
Yep.
it. And
Yeah.
that's the craziest thing, that like how if I had just been disciplined in what I knew that I should do for myself and my body, I wouldn't even have that issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And oh, I didn't mean to cut you off, man.
are you good? You good? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say in my work as a wellness and fitness coach, I see that often. Um, but not to talk about other people, but to talk about myself. For so long, I said, I hate these love handles. Like I'm ready to get rid of these love handles. And, I'd be working at it and I, say I'm working at it, but nothing would change.
Mm-hmm.
But then I had to ask myself, like, but why is it not changing? Like, I'm working out, I don't eat that poorly. And I would continue to say, I don't eat that poorly.
That
And I
poorly.
continue to say, I don't eat that poorly until I recognize, like,
Yep.
no, I do eat that poorly. You know what I mean? So as long as I kept saying,
Mm-hmm.
I don't eat that poorly, I continued to have love handles. But when I said to myself, let me see what I'm eating, let me modify what I'm eating. And then I saw love handles go away. I'm like, wait a minute, I have control over
Mm-hmm.
this. I've had control over it the entire time and didn't recognize it because I was in denial. I wasn't holding myself accountable. I was victimizing myself, like, I'm working out, this ain't changing, it must not be meant to be. And so I had to, again, take that step or make that step to be accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And things changed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, what would you say is probably like some of the other things that you need to have that's key in order for you to just identify that you're even victimizing? Because that, like, it's probably the most dangerous thing for someone to not know that they're victimizing. Probably the
Yeah.
most dangerous thing. What would you say is some
Yeah.
other key stuff? You got like self-discipline, self-accountability. What else?
I think to surround yourself with good, honest people who you trust, brave, courageous people who will tell you when you're messing up. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of
Yeah,
times
yeah, yeah.
we want to hear the good, and a lot of times people tell us things that are probably true about ourselves, and we're defensive, again, victimizing ourselves. Right. Or we choose to be around people who we say, like, I'm only going to be around people who are polite or people who, build me up. Yeah, we want to be around people who build us up, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
want to just be around people who, like, build us up. Those people who build us up need to also have the ability to just check in with us to say, like, hey, this is an area for development. If that is a spouse and or, partner, friends,
Mm-hmm.
relatives, colleagues, like, someone needs to be able to, or some people need to be able to tell us in every industry of our life, or I should say every area of our lives, right? So if that is work,
Yep.
if that's our spiritual lives, if that's our personal lives, if that's our lives as a parent, like, people should be able to check in with us and give us honest feedback.
Oh yeah. I was in group therapy for a very long time, and group
Mhm.
therapy is probably the most fair place I was ever at when it came to
Yeah.
feedback.
Yeah.
And it was rough at first, but it's a place where they're not going to let you be a victim.
Mm.
So not whether that's positively or negatively. And so that was a great community for me though, because it was full of those supportive people who would give great feedback. And I talked to other business owners about it all the time, is that you need a network, but outside of just a network, you need to have that good community and that network of people that will
Yeah.
be real with you.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
yeah, you might be going through stuff and everybody's going through stuff.
Yeah.
It don't matter what. But I think having a community of other people who are also going through stuff helps out. Like
Mm.
you said.
Mm.
How can
I'm not sure if I told you this before, but there was a
uh,
guy, and I promise you, I can't remember this guy's name. I wish I could remember his name. He worked at the gym, man, and
it's
he
when
was
we're
the
on the
most
podcast that you can't remember it.
exactly right.
Yeah.
I he was a trainer at the gym that I belonged to, and he just gave me the most real feedback ever. No one else, everyone else told me, like, Omar, you look good. You know what I'm saying? Like, you look good. You lost weight. You did, you've done this, blah, blah, blah. But he kept it the most real with me. He said, I watch you work out all the time, and the way you work out doesn't match how your body looks. And he said, what are you eating? And even though I wasn't mad, it
Mm.
did kind of, like, give me some pause where I was like, what do you mean what I'm eating? And I didn't have an answer. But I remember saying to myself, like, man, that's good feedback. And I promise you, man, that guy changed the trajectory of my fitness
That's
goals, my
good.
life. And he unfortunately, I really hope that God brings us, crosses our paths again, because I really want to tell him how influential he was. And this was probably 3 years ago. But other than that, if God doesn't cross us again, man, our paths, he will never know. And I hate that. That's my
Wow,
prayer,
that's
actually, that we cross
incredible.
paths. Mm-hmm.
That's incredible. I mean, think think of it this way. All right. So the result that you're having in life versus what you're putting into it to get that result doesn't match, doesn't correlate. we're putting 2 and 2 in, but we're not getting 4.
That's right.
And that's what you were in.
The math ain't math.
The math ain't math. Right. That's what you were doing. And you probably didn't even realize it, that you were not getting 4 at all. And the dangerous piece is that if nobody ever came and interrupted that, you still probably be victimizing. Right.
Yeah.
Or at least not knowing that and continue on. And right, like I said, when you're a victim and when you're victimizing and you're just kind of continue going in whatever way, and you don't have that support system behind you in that community, you just continue going on with whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're very right about that. I love that. Yeah, that is a person to cross paths with again. Wow.
And think about how much courage that took him to tell me that I was fat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's a lot of courage to tell someone that you know you fat.
Wait, he said that you're fat?
He didn't say I was fat, right? That ain't the word. But for him to say that you work out hard, but you don't look like you work out hard, those lines ain't too thin. It's kind of obvious that he's telling me, like, dude, you fat.
Yeah. Well, and
but no one else was telling me that.
I think to follow up from it then is when you call someone out for being a victim, they have to also be ready to have that emotional intelligence and that emotional development. Right. Yeah. I don't think that somebody can just, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that somebody can kind of come in and just interrupt your victimizingness, or you saying that life is controlling everything that you do, and just interrupt and say, hey, life's controlling what you do. I think you do have to be the right person, right? Emotionally. Yeah. Like if, let's say that you were not in that position of emotional intelligence, at that point, to accept that feedback, how would that have changed how you responded or reacted?
So I think it could have made me respond in a very defensive way. On top of responding in a defensive way, I would have never received it. I would have come home. I would have told my wife. In fact, I can tell you 100%, I did come home and tell my wife. And my wife, I love her, but she's going to be like, baby, you look great. You know what I'm saying? Like, she is not going to be like, yeah, he was wrong or whatever. I'm sorry. She's not going to say, yeah, he's right. She's going to be like, baby, he's wrong. Yeah. Don't let him talk to you. Like, she's going to. And I love that. But I also know that about my wife, so I'm not going to come to her to ask her about that. You know what I mean?
She's the exception. She's the exception to the whole community of feedback. Yeah.
Yeah. She ain't gonna. She's gonna support me and be like, "Baby, you're fine. Don't worry about him." And so I think what we have to do is, as you said, we have to bring ourselves to a level of maturity, and it's not easy, where we can receive feedback, because in the event that you are not in that space, no one can ever tell you anything. People are thinking things about you and want to tell you, but no one will ever tell you, because they'll say, oh, Omari always blows up, you know what I'm saying? Or, oh, Omari always shrugs things off, or, oh, Omari, he ain't trying to hear that. And so people stop bringing things to you. It's kind of like in the event that I invite you to, several parties and you continue to say no, at some point I'm going to say, Charmin ain't interested. He ain't coming to no parties. I ain't gonna even invite him. And so what I will do when people invite me to things, because I am super social and do love, invitations, is I'll say, I can't make this, but continue to invite me. Anyone will tell you, I'll say, continue to invite me, because I don't want you to take the, hey, I can't come this time for a knock. I want you to know that I'm open to it. So in the same way with feedback, I will say, like, thank you for, giving me that feedback. I really appreciate that, because I want to create an environment where that person can give me feedback. I'm not saying I'm allowing everybody to tell me about myself, because I'm not. Right. Like, I'm a professor, and I am just not into letting students tell me about who I am as a person. Now, they can give me feedback as a professor to say, like, hey, I feel like, you sped through information. I feel like you don't respect students. But like, they can't tell me, like, I think that you're a trash dad. You know what I mean? Like, that's just not their role in my life, So,
right. Yeah. That's, and this, you said, you kind of gave the example about the inviting me, like, no, but please continue to invite me. I love that, because for me, I had a whole period of mental depression, where I would try to be invited to places knowing that I was not probably going to end up going. And then when people stopped, then I felt like, well, my friends don't care about me. They don't want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Victimizing, right? And control, and letting everything else control me, not taking accountability, not having the discipline to be able to at least let them know, one, I don't want to be there, or being able to follow up and say, hey, no, I don't want to go this time, but continue to invite me. It takes just that phrase right there alone already takes the control into your hands, because okay, well, yeah, no, I don't want to go, but I do want to continue to get invited. And you put it out there. Now, if somebody else doesn't invite you, well, you put it out there and still whatever. But I think it automatically still keeps some of the control in your hands of life.
So true.
And kind of to bring it all the way back, if you had to explain what success looks like after opening your mind to not letting life control you, what would that look like versus before you let life control you?
Yeah, I think that success looks like being able to see how before you were very different, right? So again, that guy telling me that, when he told me, even though, it gave me some pause, I was not offended. Like, I even talked to my wife and friends about it to say, like, I wasn't offended. You know what I mean? I actually appreciated him telling me that, even though it stung a little, right? It was kind of embarrassing, like, but I'd rather be embarrassed and get the message than to not even recognize I should be embarrassed, you know what I mean, and continue along that same, route of eating what I was eating, and, continuing to, grow in terms of visceral fat, right? Things that make you more likely to, have, elevated levels of cholesterol, elevated blood pressure. Who wants all that and you working out? You know what I mean? Like, the whole point of working out is so that you don't have all of that, And so I would rather be embarrassed, someone call me to the carpet on it, and change my behavior than to not. And I think that's success, being able to say, like, years ago, oh, he couldn't have told me that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd have been offended. Success is being able to be like, you know what? I'm not perfect. And someone telling me that I'm not perfect is okay.